Hello everyone, I'm DanTheMan. So, when I heard Season 2 of Doom Patrol was coming out, I wanted to do review videos just like I did with Harley Quinn, Stargirl, and DC Universe All-Star games. However, when I heard it was coming out, what I did not know would end up happening is that it would come out the same time as Stargirl, so both shows would run concurrently, and that the first 3 episodes would premiere the same week that Harley Quinn's season finale premiered. Therefore, there was a whole lot of overlap, and as some of my regulars might have noticed, I had some trouble keeping up with just 2 shows, so I don't think I'm going to be able to do Doom Patrol reviews in the same style that I did my Harley Quinn reviews, but I did still want to do Doom Patrol reviews, both because I love Doom Patrol and would like to weigh in on it, and also because I've done reviews for all the shows on DC Universe that came out since Harley Quinn Season 1, so I'd like to do a Doom Patrol review of some kind, just because I don't want to completely break that trend. So what I'm going to do, instead of doing my scripted and more edited reviews like I did for Harley Quinn and Stargirl, I'm going to do something a bit more like my reviews that I did for Crisis on Infinite Earths, which you can click the card if you want to see those. But basically, they're just more my off-the-cuff thoughts after the episode aired that I gave right after watching it. Not something that's scripted, and other than this pretty graphic you're seeing here, you'll see a little bit less graphics than my normal videos. It'll be sort of a podcast type thing. I know these aren't going to necessarily be as good as my other videos because I did it that way, but it will allow me to do reviews without getting overwhelmed like I did when Harley Quinn and Stargirl aired at the same time. So, with that out of the way, here are my initial thoughts after having watched the first 3 episodes of Doom Patrol on DC Universe. And for anyone who doesn't know, they also air on HBO Max. They're the same episodes, they didn't edit one or the other like Stargirl did with the CW episodes. I loved the first episode. I especially liked them being little and running around in not the train set, but running around in the, what are those things called? The cars, the stock cars? I don't know what they're called, I'm sorry. Those cars that run around the little tracks. When I was a kid, my dad had a train set, and I used to always think it would be so cool if I could shrink down and walk around all those model train buildings. So I kind of like that they did that here with Doom Patrol, just because it sort of fulfilled a very young childhood fantasy of mine. I don't know if that was just me. That probably wasn't something anyone else thought, but that was what I thought when I saw the episode. As far as the episode itself, though, I did love seeing the characters again. How could I not? Everyone got a whole lot of really great moments. Cliff, quote-unquote, beating the rats was a funny moment, and I really liked that. Obviously, I liked this scene of the rat eating her baby a little bit less. I remember when we had hamsters as a kid, and rodents do that. That is not pretty. It's not pretty when you're looking at it on miniatures. I can only imagine seeing a giant that way. I'm surprised they weren't all traumatized instead of just the chief's daughter. I like Crazy Jane in this episode and in all 3 episodes. The main thing I did like about Crazy Jane in the first episode and the 3rd episode is the storyline of her suppressing her other personalities and fighting to be primary. Meant that we didn't get to see her other personalities, at least not played by the same actress who plays Crazy Jane. And I was sorry about that because the best part about Crazy Jane is seeing all her various different personalities and how well the actress does with it. It's especially impressive because the personalities she plays are all based on Crazy Jane in the comics. They're not characters that were specifically written for, which makes it even more impressive of a performance. So not getting to see any of that. We saw a little bit in the first episode, but we didn't get really any of that in the other 3 episodes. The other 2 episodes, excuse me. We just got the scenes in the underground where the different actors played them. So that was a little disappointing. Hopefully after the 3rd episode we'll get more of that, because Crazy Jane just isn't as fun when she's not switching the personalities. Although I did like her relationship with Cliff, especially in the first episode, but we got some good ones of that in the later episodes as well. I really think their relationship is one of the highlights of the show, so I'm glad that's still being showcased. I like Larry. I didn't think he did as much in the first episode, probably because he wasn't shrunk down like the rest. I'm a little surprised the energy alien couldn't have turned them all bigger. I would have thought he'd be able to do that given some of the things he did in the past, but I guess then again if they did that the episode would have been short and it would have been kind of a short rip-off resolution to last season's cliffhanger. Rita was great as always. I like the idea of her training to be a superhero and trying to become more heroic. It's a nice transition from last season when she sort of reformed herself from her more horrible ways in the last season. I also like the arm stretching. That's a nice callback to her lesser known power. She's mostly known for growing and shrinking in the comics, but she did briefly do that, I know, because I looked it up last season when they were hitting at that. So that was nice to see. I do like Chief's road to redemption. I like that they haven't brushed over the fact that he really did the Doom Patrol dirty in the past. I honestly don't know how they're going to have him completely forgive him. He's going to have to do a whole lot, because I sure wouldn't forgive that, especially Cliff. If anyone has reason to hate him, it's Cliff. Not only did Chief ruin his life, but he got his wife killed and ruined his chance of getting to know his daughter, so I'm not sure how he could forgive that. Even the fact Niles did it for his daughter is somewhat negated in Cliff's mind, because he did it at the expense of Cliff's own family, so why should he be sympathetic towards the Chief? And I agree, honestly. But I do like that. I like that Chief is so flawed, and I like that they're not giving him an easy redemption arc. He's going to have to earn the team's forgiveness if he ever does, though in this show they may never forgive him. I also like Cyborg in the first episode. He didn't do a whole lot, although I wonder if he'd been able to call the Justice League, because you'd think they could have helped him, but then again, much like with the energy beam in Cliff, if he had done that, the episode would have been over quickly. Not to mention the obvious fact the Justice League probably can't really show up on that show for meta behind-the-scenes reasons that are kind of beyond this review, but still kind of feel I should look behind the curtain since I brought that up. Then there was Dorothy Spinner. I had no idea what to expect from her. I haven't read a whole lot of Doom Patrol comics, so I wasn't at all familiar with the character from the comics. So going in, I didn't know what to expect. Kid characters and child actors can often ruin a show, so I was a little worried about doing that. So far, so good with her, though. For one, she hasn't completely stolen the show from the others, which I was worried about her doing. The actress also does a great job with her. She manages to make her very endearing, which is high praise indeed for such a young actress, because if you go too far with that, they're anything but endearing. But she does manage to make Dorothy endearing. I am interested to see what's going to happen with her imaginary friends. I'm sure if I read the comics I'd know more, but I didn't, so I'm kind of going into that blind. I didn't even know she was going to have that power before the season started. But either way, I did like Dorothy. I thought her story was interesting. I do think she could become a little much if they use her too much, so hopefully they'll use her sparingly and let her be more of a plot device for the rest of the characters. But so far, so good with her. And overall, I liked the story for the first episode, even though it was mostly just to get you reacquainted with the characters. I thought everything did good. I do like with this season so far, it seems, that they're not going to overindulge us with a whole lot of new characters. So far, it seems Dorothy's the only new main character. The one problem I do have with a lot of Berlanti productions is I think they overdo it on wanting to shoehorn comic characters in the show, and a couple seasons in, they've got so many characters that it takes you away from the main cast that you fell in love with in the first place. And the main Doom Patrol team of Robotman, Rita, Farr, Negative Man, aka Larry, Cyborg, Crazy James, and the Chief, those characters and their relationships more than carry the show, especially for such a short season. I don't think we needed a whole lot more, so I'm glad they're not suddenly bringing in a whole bunch of other characters who were in the Doom Patrol. I think they'd only get in the way of the characters that made the show great in the first place. On to the second episode. I don't have as much to say about that one. It was a good episode. I like time travel, so I got a little excited when it started, but as we all saw, there wasn't that much as far as actual time travel in the episode. I did think it was good. I liked the scene of Cliff where he sort of chewed out the Chief and ran down how the Chief had screwed them all over to try to come up with his backup plan for Dorothy. I thought it was real well done, and Brendan Fraser did a great job with it. I think Robotman and Cliff Steele were actually the role Brendan Fraser was born to play. He just does such a great job, I can't imagine anyone else playing the character. I also like the B-plot, although the B-plot ended up setting up the next episode with Larry going to his son's funeral. I hope they're going to explore more the relationship with his sons. As a lot of people pointed out last episode, and I kind of felt, Larry really did make a lot of his decisions at his family's expense, and especially his son's expense, and I'm glad that they're going to explore that a little more. I don't know if we're going to see more beyond the second episode, but I really hope we do, and kind of felt like they were setting up for more, because I definitely feel there's a lot of good stuff to be mined from that. As far as the main series, that disco roller skate rig thing was funny, but the episode felt kind of like filler, which was a little weird for just the second episode, but it was fun for what it was. I'm not sure I really get where they're going with Cyborg. Seems a little weird to take him away from the team, and his storyline just didn't really seem to fit in with the rest of the show. I'm going to reserve my final judgment because it's probably going somewhere, but with 9 episodes, I think it's a little weird to take him away from the team, even though there is some logical character development as to why he'd feel like moving on. He was never really part of the team in the same way the others were. It almost felt kinda with the way they sort of took him out of the main story, like maybe the theories people had last season that they were going to move him over to Titans might have eventually been true, so they had no real season 2 plans for him, but since they decided to ultimately set Doom Patrol and Titans in different continuities, so they're obviously not setting Victor up to go into Titans, they just didn't quite know what to do with him, so they just kind of gave him a little storyline on his own. It felt kind of like it belonged in a different TV show. And then we got to the 3rd episode, which was a good episode. It had a lot of great body horror. If any former Swamp Thing fans were missing that, they should definitely consider checking out at least episode 3 of Doom Patrol, because that was some gruesome stuff, especially those butterfly wings growing out. Ugh. I mean, that was the desired effect, so it was good stuff, and that was some real good effects, but that was almost too much for me. I'm not a horror movie fan in general. Swamp Thing kind of made me a little bit more of a horror fan, but that tested it for me. I hope that's about as far as we go with that kind of stuff. The scenes with Chief and the villain, whose name I forget, and I don't want to say it wrong, so I just won't say it, but the villain for the episode was interesting. I'm starting to think that maybe this season, each episode is going to be about Chief exploring a way that he can stay alive longer so he can watch after Dorothy. That kind of seems like where the season's going so far. Maybe they'll go somewhere else later, but again, this season is only 9 episodes, so we're already a third of the way through with it. I also really liked the scene with Cliff trying to reconnect with his daughter. You knew that was going to be a disaster when it started, but boy, it did turn into a disaster. I also loved the scene when Jay came out, hit Cliff with the reality that what happened with Chief wasn't his fault, but what he was putting his daughter through right then most definitely was. The sad truth was, unfortunately, through no fault of his own, Cliff missed out on getting to know his daughter, and given the circumstances, much like with Larry, he may never really have that chance again. Some things just can't be undone. I'm also curious to see where they're going with Crazy Jade. It looks like at the end of that episode that Jade's no longer the primary, so maybe someone else will be taking over as her main personality, and that could be interesting to watch. Although if someone's taken over, they're presumably going to want to leave the Doom Patrol real quickly, so not sure where that's going. Jade probably won't stay out of control of the body for too long, because if they did, she'd end up separated from the crew like Cyborg, and I really don't think that works with her character, especially to have her just off on her own doing her own thing. So those were my thoughts for the first 3 episodes. I didn't like this as much as I liked last season, although the season just started, so maybe it'll build up, but I thought it was a good 3 episodes. I love seeing all the characters again. They felt like the same characters, and it did feel like coming back to the show. I'm a little worried that they might have hit a second season slump, but I still think the season is going to be very, very enjoyable. So that's my thoughts on the first 3 episodes of Doom Patrol. Overall, some good episodes. They weren't quite as good as season 1. Maybe my anticipation was just built too high, but I still think the season's off to a good start. It could definitely only go up from here. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share the video. I'm Dan the Man, and I'll see you next time.